All right, what we're going to go through today is how to set up a mix. So when an artist sends you their stems, how do you get it set up so you can do the job? And this will help us get started with the first assessment. So we'll use that as an example. So download the files from Moodle under the Assessments tab, and you should have all of these files, except for that one. Have a read through the assignment. We're going to talk about it today in class. Check the reference. This is the demo, so this is what the artist sends to the mix engineer, but I've also actually given you the pre-master. So you wouldn't normally have this because that is the mixed version, but because we've already got a mixed version, I gave it to you to kind of keep you on track or to help you maintain perspective. Because sometimes if you've been mixing for a couple of hours and you kind of can't really tell whether it's good or not what you're doing, come back and check this pre-master and go, okay, cool. That's maybe how loud the bass should be or where the clap should be or things like that. But to start with today, we're going to unpack our stems. So these are unmixed. And so they're just a bunch of waves. And you've probably done a similar thing in the remix class where you've got to bring in a bunch of audio files. Okay, and if we don't know how to do it properly, it can be a little tricky and end up in a whole world of trouble. So you can see the mix engineer is going to like us because we've named everything really clearly, and you'll see why that helps their job so much. So once that's unpacked, click there, press Command A, click and Alt Tab or drag in, and now those first two MIDI tracks, ignore those because we don't want to drop audio onto MIDI. So we want to go to our first audio track, and you can see how they're lining up side by side, the waveforms. Okay, I'll drop them there just to show you. And so that's a world of pain. We'll have to go create every track and then drag it down one by one. So instead of doing that, Ableton has a pretty neat trick where you just hold Command. And as long as there's no MIDI tracks in the way, when you let go of the mouse, Ableton will make all the tracks you need and put them on top of each other. So zoom in, and then you'll have your mix, or at least your stems, in the set ready to go. So we can delete these two MIDI tracks. And now the main thing to check here is that they're all the same length. Okay. If they're not the same length, it means you've got a problem and you'll have to start over. And the waveforms can take a while to load up, as you can see. But the problem will be in your record, warp, and launch. And it's because your auto warp long samples will be on. So turn this off if the material is not all the same length and it's sounding out of time, and then re-import it and it should be fine. So we've got our waveforms in. We basically just need to tidy up our set. So we can press Option click or H, and it'll compress all of our, or close all of our tracks so we can get a bit of an overview a bit better. And I'm simply just going to click my first drum, hold Shift, click my last drum track, and press Command G. That's going to it's going to group all my drums together, and I'm going to rename it. And we'll do the same for effects. And essentially what we're doing is we're turning, say, a 27 track set into maybe 7 tracks or 7 groups, subgroups. Now for this assessment, we're not going to be doing too much with the groups, but I'm just getting you set up with best practices straight away. And what I'll do is I'll often have my drums at the bottom, effects right at the top, and then I will kind of build the song up in terms of the frequencies. So drums, kick drum, bass, chords, leads, vocals, and then ambient or miscellaneous stuff, effects right at the top. And it is just a workflow that I've developed that helps me kind of navigate my sets, but you can do top to bottom as well, or it can just be a mess, up to you. So one other thing I'll draw your attention to is that I would say 9 times out of 10, it's better to have your kick drums outside of that main drum channel and grouped in their own kick group. Now this is because our kick drums have a completely different frequency content to the rest of our drums. Let's just have a quick check and you should see what I mean. So really low, deep, strong, subby. There's definitely high frequencies in there making that click and helping it cut through. But comparing it to our drums, completely different frequency response. So we often end up treating them completely differently in a mix. And so that isolation and separation is good. So like I said, for this assessment, all the processing I want to see is on the individual tracks, not really on the groups. We'll go into that in term 2. But if you want to do stuff there, go for it. I want to see nothing on the master channel. Okay, this is mixing, not mastering. And then you can color coordinate to however you want to do it. So right click in the drums and saying assign track color to all group tracks. Maybe that makes it easier for you to see, or maybe you like it like that, whatever. Yeah, I don't mind it like that. So I'll do that for that as well. And whatever, that's good enough for today. So you'll notice the bass and the chords don't have their groups. Leads have their own groups as well. And there's another one in here actually. There's this flute lead. And it's really atmospheric. And it's also very different to the other leads. So when I'm grouping instruments together, I'm thinking about, do they share the same frequencies? And also, do they have the same kind of volume envelopes and things like that? Like, am I going to process them the same? Are they sustained or short and sharp? Am I going to distort them or really compress them or what? And for this one, I actually think that lead flute is more of like a texture or even a pad or a harmony. So, you know, while it's still a lead, it's only got one note. I could probably group it with the chords and it would be a little bit more similar. Yeah. Or I could group it with the effects and it might be a bit more similar. We've basically just got some noise that happens in random parts here. So I'm going to go with chords. So let's group it there, and just that will show you. We'll call it chords and flute, whatever you want. And even that shows how, you know, there is no right or wrong answer here. And so that's basically how you get all your tracks in there at the start. And we've broken it down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this just means right at the end of the mix, we can kind of really give a once over, fine tuning it just by turning our track volumes up or down and making sure that the balance is exactly the way we want it. So with it like that, I'll press Command Shift S, and I will go to wherever you're doing it, and just call it Promises. This will create your folder mix. That can be mix 1, and then I'll immediately save mix version 2. Just in case I want to come back to it and start a blank set straight away. And then the first thing that we did right back in week 1 was go to our audio effects, get utility. Okay, my utility is already auto-loaded, and bring it down to negative affinity, remember? And then I option drag onto every other track. And what this does is allows me to gain stage and correctly, and then also have my volume and headroom, and build that headroom into my mix. So I won't go through this. I won't do the whole set. I'll just show you one. So we'll do the main kick, And the reason I'm doing the main kick is because that's actually the first instrument I recommend bringing up in the mix. So turning up the volume of. If we go over to our session view, I'll get rid of my mixer down here. Remember to drag up your mixer so that you can see the detail a little bit better. And if you can't see the numbers, just drag the channels wider. Okay. So we'll go over to our kick drum. And remember, we're aiming for our first sound to be between -12 and -18. So I'll start bringing that up. I'll just solo this for now. Now this is the only one I do by my eyes. And something around there is fine. So it's peaking at -13. RMS is around there. That looks great. And from here, I can build the rest of the mix around this volume level. So when I go to the bass, for example, and start to bring that up, I'm not looking at the meter and trying to get it to hit -13 or something like that. I'm just using my ears. If I go to a bit with the bass line, just using my ears to see, okay, what actually sounds good in relationship to that kick. Because I want both of them to basically be number one. And something around there is fine. I'm working in headphones at the moment. Yeah. So I'll leave that up to you to decide, because this is part of your mixing journey. But that is how you set up and get started on your mix. In the next video, we're going to go through actually how to compress the kick drum. And then today, we're just going to be working through compressing and working on this set. All right. Thanks, guys.